Welcome back to the Fox Connecticut Morning News. Now that Osama bin Laden is dead, the question is, where do we go from here? This morning we assembled a round table of experts to dissect the issue. So joining me this morning is political analyst Ned Lamont, military expert John Bucciarelli, the chairman of the Department of Humanities at the Coast Guard Academy, Glenn Solmacy, and also security expert Gerard Johansen. So gentlemen, thanks for coming on the program. We appreciate that. Mr. Johansen, let me start with you. We're all very concerned that there might be another attack, a retaliatory attack. What do we need to do, whether it's at the airports or at the train stations or just in our daily lives?
Well, what you're going to see is the politicians and the security decisions makers at the state and federal level, they're looking at an increased risk. One of the things we need to remember is that Al-Qaeda and some of the offshoots tend to hit high-value targets and also high symbolic targets. 9/11, they attacked our financial and political structure. Twin Towers were chosen because of their symbolic nature in addition to the nature of the financial system of this country. What you're going to see is increased security at areas such as Grand Central Station, New York City, at the airports, also other government buildings, White House, Capitol building. You're going to see increased security. There is the issue of individual actors acting on their own or within small groups that may target these facilities.
Do you think Americans should wait a few days or a few weeks before they travel abroad? Or is it okay, just be careful?
I would say the best thing to do is arm yourself with as much information. The U.S. State Department is shutting down embassies in terms of the public hours. The embassies are still functioning, but what has ended up happening is resources that you may have had before this all happened may not be there if you're traveling abroad. So the best thing to do is arm yourself with as much information before you head out.
Mr. Solmacy, let's talk about what this means with the war on terror. Obviously, we're all very happy about this. What does it mean? Does this stop the war on terror? Does it diminish it a little bit, or what?
Not at all, Logan. I think one of the items we have to consider and be conscious of, and I think the administration is that this is kind of a hydra. Al-Qaeda is a hydra. Once one of their leaders is decapitated, if you will, or taken out, another one will grow in its place. And I think we have to be conscious that this war on Al-Qaeda continues, will continue, and unfortunately, it is a generational war. So this is one step in a long progress towards defeating Al-Qaeda, which is our end goal.
Some have been saying that now that we got Osama bin Laden, we should be bringing some of these troops out of the Middle East, whether it's Iraq or Afghanistan. What do you think about that?
I think that's not the right time. I think that's understandable. Our country's been at war for a long time, for 10 years. We have many great men and women right here from Connecticut fighting overseas. Yeah. But the reality is that we have to continue the fight, keep Al-Qaeda on their heels, as we've done since the attacks on 9/11. We've disrupted their communications networks, their intelligence networks, their ability to command and control. We need to continue to keep them on their toes and fight them over on their home field.
Mr. Bucciarelli, let's talk about the effort, the successful effort to kill Osama bin Laden. It's a special ops force, highly trained, and now we're learning that they might have used a helicopter made by Sikorsky, which is kind of nice to know that Connecticut had a part in bringing down this terrorist. What exactly happened when they went in and killed him?
Well, I just want to start by highlighting something that Glenn said, is that to put this in perspective, what Al-Qaeda did to the United States on 9/11 was bigger than Pearl Harbor. They killed more people. They came right in our back, in our front door, and attacked our financial and political symbols of this country. So when you think of this war, we've taken out the leader, but there's a whole army out there still ready and willing to fight us every day.
Sure.
So as far as the Joint Special Operations stuff, yes, a group of highly trained folks that this is their lifeblood, what they do. They train to do these kinds of operations. From what I saw on the TV,
sure.
Some Black Hawk helicopters made here in Connecticut, yes, and went in and flew into the compound and very quickly took down the target and brought him out. So you don't get better trained people in the world than these folks in the Joint Special Operations Command out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Mr. Lamont, let's talk about Pakistan. They had been saying that they are with us on this war against terror, that they are helping us, but now we learn that this is $1 million complex. It's very unusual for that area. They've got no internet, no cable. It's 100 yards away from a military academy. It seems as though somebody in the Pakistan government knew something and they were hiding it.
I'm afraid that's true. I mean, we're so proud of the professionalism and heroism of our special operations forces. And when the word got back to the White House, EKIA, enemy killed in action, Geronimo, you could hear the celebration. What a difference that had made. But what's got to be particularly worrisome for our country right now is that Pakistan, which soon will have the fourth largest nuclear arsenal in the world, and perhaps not afraid to use it, aids and harbors al-Qaeda and al-Qaeda-related elements, and some elements of that ISI, the intelligence agency, must have known that Osama was on their land.
Talk a little bit about what this does for President Obama. His ratings had been slipping lately. He recently released the birth certificate. That seemed to get him some points. He had some funny comments to say at the Correspondents' Dinner, and now he's the man in charge during Osama bin Laden being killed. What does this do? Obviously, it's a good thing.
Well, I'm amazed that he can keep his game face at that Correspondents' Dinner with everything else going on. I think it shows that he's got a strong foreign policy team that works together and get the job done. I think it's important not to play any politics with something like this and keep the American people focused that the war on terror is a continuing war. It's a generational war, as these guys said.
I want to get to the burial issue in a moment, but let me just ask you this because I'm thinking about it. The president has been saying he wants to harness this unity. All the Americans, people from around the world are coming together and they're rejoicing at the death of this terrorist, and he wants to try to harness that unity to try to maybe do some things, good things in Congress. Can we use this unity somehow in Congress so that people on both sides of the aisle will come together and try to pass some legislation?
I'll try any way that we can get those folks in Congress to come around to some common good. And we felt that sense of pride and patriotism a little bit after 9/11, and maybe we have some of that today so we can do the people's business.
It'd be great. We're running out of time, but let's talk about the burial issue, and I'll just put it out to whoever wants to talk about it. He was buried at sea within 24 hours of death. The United States government is saying that was in accordance with Islamic law, but a lot of people are saying, we want proof that you really killed this guy, and there's a lot of discussion about it. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, look, and there'll always be conspiracy theorists, no matter what we do. So there will be somebody saying that he'll be showing up in different parts of the world or showing in other areas, but conclusively, we know the administration was certain that this was a killed-in-action operation, that they did take affirmative action and did carry out the operation successfully. One of the items for doing it quickly, though, as well, is Al-Qaeda uses moments like this, funerals and processions, for propaganda victories and continued recruiting. So I think the administration was bright, smart, and quick to make this happen quickly, put it to rest, and move forward. There will be, however, some that would say human rights-wise that we didn't allow them to properly, his supporters and followers to properly memorialize him. But I think for the most part, the efforts by the administration were right on target and right forward and trying to move this and put it to rest once and for all.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much. Ned Lamont, John Bucciarelli, Glenn Solmacy, Gerard Johansen. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Logan.
Rachel, over to you.
All right, Logan, let's talk about a couple crashes because this is really tying up the drive into Hartford right now. Route 2 westbound, we'll start there. There's an accident right between exits 8 and 5D, and you can see the delay that's leading up to this two-car crash that state police are ramping up. Now, there's another accident in Hartford. This is along the eastbound side of 84. Multiple vehicles